The last place I wanted to be was Frostnipistan.
This one's wife. You can't cook. Legal hissy fit. From Meghan. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Narcissists do not like to be told that they're not good at things. This is because their state of mind, driven by their narcissism, is that they are brilliant. They are the expert. Whatever they turn their hand to, they are scintillatingly good at it. For instance, I put up a video recently about Donald Trump talking about how he's the expert so many times that he has stated that he is the best, that he is the expert. And it's quite clear that many of the things that he's spoken about, he simply cannot be the expert, but his narcissism convinces him that he is. But he's not alone in that regard. There are plenty of narcissists, typically lesser and mid-range, that think they're far better than what they actually are, with a range of different skills and characteristics. This one's wife is no exception. She thinks that she could potentially be a brilliant politician. She thinks she's a fantastic content creator, podcaster, interviewer, broadcaster. She thinks that she's a wonderful friend and mother. She also thinks that she's a spectacular cook, even though, as many of you have pointed out, a series of errors in relation to the way that she holds knives, stores chicken in fridges, and generally conducts herself in respect of cooking. Indeed, a more accurate description of what she does is to suggest that she arranges food on plates with her fruit rainbow platter and her crudités, rather than doing any actual cooking, which seemed more usually to be undertaken by the chefs that appeared on her show. This has not gone unnoticed by those who are professionals, and naturally they will find it offensive for an individual to hold themselves out as being some kind of cook when it's patently clear that they are not. And one particular chef has pointed out that this one's wife is not a good cook. Jameson Stocks, who was anointed by Marco Pierre White as Britain's next culinary star, is learning that life is full of hazards, as reported by Richard Eden for the Daily Mail. Apparently, he explained to Eden that he denounced this one's wife's Netflix show with Love Meghan as forced and fake and painful to watch. Stocks had advised this one's wife to steer clear of the kitchen and go back to acting, describing her as quite a good actress, rather charitable of him I think, and insisting that people should stick to what they do best. It would appear that Stocks' comments aren't malicious, that he's simply observing that she's not very good in the kitchen and she could go and do something else instead, with the clear advice people should stick to what they do best. Nevertheless, his comments in that regard meant that he received a lawyer's letter from Netflix after he spoke out against her. Stocks says the letter was warning him. He explains, "I proper pissed them off. Netflix did not like it and came after me." He said the legal letter was a load of nonsense. If intended to silence him, the missive has abjectly failed. "I'm not taking any notice," Stocks said. "How can she get all this money from Netflix? I don't think she can cook, and I don't think she should be teaching people to cook either. What would I cook for her? I would cook something she has done on a TV programme, but cook it properly. Ooh, nice burn." That, however, seems unlikely given the fact that he has given his assessment of this one's wife's lifestyle brand. He says, "Her jam sold out in minutes. I think they probably only had about 10 of each product." He said, "I know Lidl do jam for about £15 cheaper than that charged by this one's wife." Accordingly, James Stocks, who landed a job working for the legendary chef Marco Pierre White and clearly knows what he's talking about, has exercised his opinion which he's perfectly entitled to do. After all, we still do have freedom of speech or freedom of expression, and he used it to explain that this one's wife can't cook, isn't very good in the kitchen, and in effect, she should stick to acting. He is allowed to express that view. I think you'd also find that many people would agree with that assessment, both professional chefs and amateur ones. However, a criticism of this one's wife cannot be allowed. Owing to her narcissism, any form of criticism is viewed as a threat to control. She is incapable of taking it on board, even when it's stated in a constructive manner. For instance, if someone were to say to her, "I don't think that outfit quite suits you. You might want to try another one." That is viewed as a threat to control. It goes through the distortion field, and in effect, what this one's wife hears is this: "You look fucking shit in what you're wearing. God awful. Why on earth do you insist on wearing these clothing? You know nothing about fashion." And therefore, her response is to dismiss that individual, possibly go on an attack. And similarly, because her narcissism needs to make her believe that she is the best at what she does, because if she has that prevailing default mindset, that makes it easier for her to pursue the prime aims. It therefore follows that if that's the mindset, if anybody turns round and says anything to the contrary, that is naturally a threat to control. Accordingly, in order to make her pursue the prime aims, her narcissism creates the delusion of her being brilliant at whatever she does. You'll have witnessed this with narcissists that you might have known, who always claim to be top or best, or try and demonstrate that they are really good at something only for them to fail and then blame it on the weather or the fact that you put them off, or "I wasn't feeling it that day," or "I was a little bit tired." This one's wife's narcissism makes her believe that she is a culinary wizard. And yet, the evidence is to the contrary. And Mr. Stocks, the professional chef, has identified this. He has spoken out and raised this criticism of her. And what's the response? Rather than ignore it, it gets right under her skin. And Netflix are instructed, and believe me, this one's wife will have told them to do it, in her haughty and arrogant fashion as she bosses people around. "I can't have this beardy chef telling me that I'm not good in the kitchen. I'm brilliant in the kitchen. You at Netflix, get a letter sent out to them." Undoubtedly, Ted Sarandos, possibly simping around her feet as she appears to have some strange hold over him, has been instructed by this one's wife to come down hard on Stocks, and therefore, as an attempt to nullify the threat to control, this one's wife does so indirectly through Netflix and through a lawyer to try and get Stocks to retract what he said. Typically, of course, whenever this one's wife tries to do something, she fucks it up, and the result is that Stocks goes and speaks to Richard Eden in the Daily Mail to tell him, "This one's wife has sought to silence me. I will not be silenced." And moreover, he adds more to the burn. This is typical of this one's wife, whereby what she tries to do in the moment leads to a collateral consequence, and there is the amplification of her activity, which shows how thin-skinned she is with regard to criticism. It demonstrates her haughty and arrogant response, her bullying response, and then it results in this being exposed to a greater audience after all. Another piece of evidence that demonstrates her bullying nature. Another piece of evidence that demonstrates how she can't handle criticism. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.